Hey, what's up everybody? Bdf 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so doing laundry. I decided to put them shoes in the machine. Just tired of that smell I was telling y'all about a couple of videos ago. Stepped in some type of puddle during a rainstorm and it smelled like human body odor afterward. I finally washed them shoes. I don't know if it even got that smell out, to be honest with you. I sniffed one of them and it still kind of smelled like that, so I might have to wash them again, but I have no problem doing that. In the worst case scenario, they just ruin the shoes. Best case scenario, it gets the smell out. So if it ruins the shoes, I'm fine with that, to be honest with you. I'm ready to throw them shoes away anyway. So yeah, man, it's a good day because the Lakers don't play. That's exactly how I feel. I don't feel like doing any of that stuff today, and I'm glad that they do not play. They do play tomorrow, though. I'll be caught up for that. They play the New York Knicks at 4 o'clock and all that. I will be ready for it, but I tell you, man, this stretch has made it so that I enjoy days we don't play more than days we do. But had a lot to do today, so it's still keeping me on this side of town. So that's what it is. Laundry today, and of course, now I got to do a little grocery shopping. So, yeah, man, Epstein files, some of them, very small amount of them were released. Awful. As you would expect, but probably worse than you expect at this point. I'm not really surprised by really anything I see by any of these people in this government or these billionaire, trillionaires, whatever the hell they are at this point. I'm not surprised by anything I see from these people, man. Nothing. Because at this point, they've already proven that they'll commit a genocide while we're all watching and then pretend like we don't see what we see. So at that point, it's like whatever you do is underneath that. Whatever weirdo stuff y'all into, sacrificing, killing people, this and that, all of that is underneath the obvious nature of a complete genocide. So that's really my thing. I understand that you know, these a lot of people are putting pressure on them to release these files, and there's a lot of people who want leverage, who are starting to understand that there's nothing keeping those files safe, not even you doing what these people tell you to do. That's kind of been one of the things that we've talked about on this channel, amongst a million other things. But those who are being blackmailed, you can't trust they're going to keep your secrets anyway. It's the God's honest truth. A guy like Donald Trump did some horrible things when he was a younger man. Horrible things that should likely get him the death penalty, if I'm being completely honest with you. If what's in them files is true, some of these people need a death penalty. Forget going to jail. Forget being impeached. They need to be given a chair. Right? So that's why, that is exactly why you're seeing America moving in lockstep with Israel. It's because Israel had this information, amongst other things, that they likely coordinated with one of their people, Epstein, for the purpose of blackmailing people. They target people. They knew that were sick, and they knew people were powerful. They created the environment for them to feed their demons, and they used that information to prop them up in specific places of power for which they can control. That was the Zionist dream. That's how they did it. That's how they've done it over the last 7,500 years probably. But what I would tell everybody who's done horrible things in the name of Israel is they're not going to keep your secrets. If doing everything they told you to do was going to keep your secrets quiet, then we would not be seeing anything in regards to these damn files. There would be nothing released. There would be nothing released. If it was enough that you keep your mouth shut, we would never know anything about any of this. It would just be a bunch of people coming out saying things happen and no evidence, no documentation whatsoever. They never intended to keep your secrets. They intended to keep those secrets over your head and then release them. And if you're spiritually inclined, you understand that it was never within them to hold your water. If you're spiritually inclined and you understand these are devil worshippers, and the devil's entire thing is about betrayal and deception, and ultimately punishing those who support him and who don't. So if you're looking at it through a spiritual lens, for which we train people basically on this channel to at least consider, then you never once thought that them Epstein files was going to stay in the dark. You never thought it. You never thought those Epstein files were going to stay in the dark. Because you always knew that the devil was inclined to turn on those who support him. He was inclined to turn on those who work for him. He's inclined to turn on those who he's made promises to. It's the essence of the betrayal dream, the dream of betrayal, the intention to hurt. Makes it so that you can never trust. Do you see what I'm saying? You can never trust the entity that's intentional on hurting people, that's intentional on betraying people, that's intentional on creating the worst reputation for itself. For itself. That's what I'm trying to get people to understand. It's nobody the devil hates more than himself. That's why he always allows himself to be seen as the worst. That's why he's always betraying people, so that you will hate him. And so if you trust him without that nugget in mind, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to run into being betrayed. Because that's his essence. That's what he does. He betrays. He turns on people. He lies to people. He pretends he's something he is not. And he leaves himself exposed to be discovered as such. Which is why we know he's a liar. Why do we know he's a liar? Because he's been proven to be. Why has he been proven to be? Because he allowed himself to be seen as such. To destroy his own reputation, destroy his own essence, and ultimately to punish himself. Now, if you understand that, you never work with him. You never work toward anything he has. You never trust that he's going to keep his promises. You never think that he's going to hold water for you just because he promised you if you do what he say, he's going to keep your secrets quiet. He's never going to keep your secrets quiet. It's not the essence of what he does. And so if you're looking at things through a very simple, lowest common denominator creating spiritual lens, which is what I ultimately talk about, then you would never be as confused as to think that your secrets are going to be kept by any entity that works for the enemy. Never. If it's blackmailing you, it's going to expose what it's got on you. It's going to ask you to do too much to keep your secrets quiet. It's going to wear you down. It's going to mistreat you to the point where you want to get out from under it. And when you do, it then expose you. And that's what I think has been going on. They've been doing awful things to Donald Trump and all these people they have under control. Because it's not just about being in control. It's about torturing them while they're in it. It's about wearing them down while they're under it. Nobody wants to stop doing what Israel wants them to do more than the people that Israel is blackmailing. Believe that. Nobody wants for Israel to go down more so than the people who Israel has by the balls, for which they are using to push forth all of their interests. And this is what I also been trying to get people to understand. I think a lot of stuff has been about dry snitching, hinting around at certain things. And a lot of these puppets, they want nothing more than for all of us to expose Israel, to release them from that blackmail, to release them from that pressure, to release them from that treatment. It's its own personal hell. I don't need to know the details of that situation. I know who that is. I know what they're prone to do based on what they've already shown me in other areas. So I know what they're doing to the people they have blackmailed. It ain't just about you do what we say, we keep your secrets quiet. No, they're doing all types of weird stuff to wear them people down so that they will betray what it is that they tell them, so that they can expose those secrets. It's the evil inside of this entity. It's the essence of the devil they serve. As I often tell you guys, I don't need to necessarily know what's going on. I just need to know the characters and know the environment. Know what's going on around it and what is needed. What it desires, what it craves, what it can discipline against, what it cannot. That'll tell me all I need to know. And these people have identified Palestinian people as their greatest threat. And what have they been doing to their greatest threat? Bullying them and torturing them and mistreating them for 75 years. Okay, that's information I can use. Because now when I know you have control over somebody, I know what you're prone to do. I know what you feed off of. You say in that Talmud that it's okay to harm children. Okay, then I'm not surprised when you leave children harmed. I'm not surprised when you use sexual stuff involving children to blackmail people. I'm not surprised And when I see y'all leaving kids unsafe in whatever forms or fashions that you do, I'm not surprised when you harbor pedophiles in your state, in your country, or so many of y'all people been exposed as such. None of that's surprising. Why? Because in your book, you essentially tell everybody that it's fine to do this so long as they're them. So of course, everything that trickles down from that is going to be without the moral compass of that being something that should never be done. If anything, it's something that's supported. Looking at y'all when they talk about the R word and how y'all use that to torture Palestinian people in these prisons, and to torture pro-Palestinian people in these prisons that you put them in. And then I look over and see y'all celebrating the people who are engaging in this behavior, clapping for them, trying to break them out of prison in situations. When I see that, that tells me enough. Now I know anything that you control is going to likely have that energy attached to it. That this is what you do in other areas. This is what you accept. This is where your moral compass will not draw a line. You will go into those depths with ease in your heart. You won't lose any sleep over these behaviors like maybe people in our society would. And so when I see the Epstein files, am I surprised? Of course not. Because the evidence has already been revealed to me that this is not too far for them at all. This is why Zionists need to understand you not only lost credibility, but you've also exposed all of your ways. Things that you are fine with, that you agree to and that you use, versus the rest of us who think of all that stuff as just absolutely the worst thing in the world. A good portion of our society is concerned about ruining our reputation. We're concerned about angering the God we serve. We're concerned about spending the rest of eternity in hell for the things that you're comfortable doing. And there's going to be a strong disconnect when you try to reach us, as we've been talking about as well, because you don't understand our humanity. And most importantly, you're warped by your own lack of humanity. And so there's a disconnect in relatability off rip. But you control so much of us, but you don't understand what it is you control. And it's the essence of the mistakes that they're making. It's the essence of the choices. It's what makes it so that these choices are made from behind those enemies' lines over there. It's because they think certain things that are definitely not true. They don't draw lines in places that ultimately a person with strength, with humanity and a strength about themselves is going to draw. They don't hold themselves accountable, so they're weak in some areas that most of us are not. They think of themselves above all reproach, so that further creates a weakness, as we talk about the analogy of being fat and happy, and how things left unattended to because of your lack of conditioning for attending to said things. This is what comes of having too much and not being held accountable. That combination of two makes you weak. So you're always going to think of yourself as a victim. You're never going to look at what you did to cause the behavior that someone may be giving you as a means of some accountability for self. Or maybe if I didn't do that, they wouldn't do this. No, you always give yourself passes because you always tell yourself you're better than everybody else. So you genuinely believe. Years and years and years of conditioning in this mindset will make you believe that you are a victim despite you provoking whatever behaviors that come out of somebody else. Because it's never about what your provocation is. It's always about what somebody else did to you and how they didn't accept that you were greater than everybody else as to allow for it to take place. This is wrong. Everybody has to be held accountable in order not to be their worst. Everybody has to be better to the best of their ability. You always want to teach someone how to control themselves, whether it be your children or people underneath you or people in subordinates of yours or what have you. You want to teach people discipline so that they don't allow themselves to get out of hand, so that that behavior that makes them get out of hand doesn't come back and bite them and you. But within those ranks and those confines, they don't do that because they always think that they're better than everybody else, that they're in control of everybody else, that it's their right to treat people however they want to, that they can do whatever they want to whomever, regardless of age, that it is beneath them, essentially, to hold themselves accountable at the behest of the people that are outside of their ranks. They don't have to treat the Goy properly. They don't have to treat the Goy with respect. They don't have to treat the Goy children with some type of dignity. They don't have, they don't have to do that. It's within their ranks to manipulate around our mentality, manipulate around us so that they can will what it is they want to do. And as a result, there are certain things that come with that. A conditioning that you allow yourself to have because of that. And that conditioning is what is being exposed to all of us right now. And I don't think many people have studied them very much, not the masses anyway, to really understand what they're looking at. And as I told you guys, it's never about telling the truth. The truth is something that gets in the way of what it is they're trying to will into to existence. They're trying to will certain things. We can do this, we can do that. The only truth is what it is that they make it in their minds. You are an obstacle to that. You are a tool if under control, but an obstacle if not in control. Their control specifically. And with that comes certain conditioning. With that comes with a certain disconnect that allows for you to think certain things are what they are not. You've created enemies without identifying that you've done so. You think you can't trust other people because of the evil in their hearts, but that's not actually what's going on. It's that you provoked and then ignored the provocation, and they are reacting to what it is you've provoked while you harbor no desire for self-awareness.
Welcome to Target.
This is what it is. And so we look at these people, they control so much, they do so much in that regard. All the things they control behave in a way that is governed by what it is I described. Not necessarily what it is that we engage in as mortals and people who are trying to live amongst one another. People who don't control the entire world with one flick of a button. But from within their position, having had this for generations on end, yeah, there's a certain conditioning factor with what it is that we see in them. They genuinely do believe all of us are evil. They genuinely do think they're better than all of us, and that the world is better for them being in control of all of us. And then it just becomes a conversation between how do we defend ourselves against that for which is their conditioning. And I don't think we figured that part out yet. I don't even think we ventured down that road yet. We're still discovering what it is I just described. We're still learning about these people. But once you've learned, then you say, okay, well, can we reach them? And the answer is, I believe so. If I'm being completely honest with you, the more I learn about what it is they believe and how they believe, the more I realize that a lot of what it is they believe just needs to be rationalized around and then conditioned through. You got to condition people to see through the propaganda upon their heads. And once the reality meets the falsehood of what it is that comes together, then they have to make a choice of whether or not they believe what they see, or they continue to believe what they were told by people that they've trusted, which doesn't actually add up. And that's a difficult thing for a lot of people to absorb, but many people do tend to wake up once what it is they've been taught is proven to not necessarily add up. You know, so it's all about conditioning. It's all about belief. It's all about an understanding and awakeness to humanity. And sometimes people have to learn hard lessons, get burnt hard and hot to understand, this practice doesn't work. This particular activity is bad for us. This particular thing did not yield what we thought it would. And although it was told to us thousands of years ago that this is what it is, and we've carried that, now that we're in the present for which certain things are coming to pass, what we were told would happen has not come yet. And I think they need to see that. They need to see that what they're manifesting does not yield what it is that they were hoping it would. And I think we're in the time where the rubber meets the road as it pertains to that for those people. They're in a space where they're understanding that a lot of their ways, it never worked, it never did work. And then they're going to have to go through a certain denial/discovery that what they were given was meant for their worsening, not their betterment. a certain denial/discovery, and a sort of infighting that comes from that natural environment of just having some people being able to accept that and other people not being able to accept that. And that's what's coming for them. They're going to end up fighting about this because there are going to be people who want to carry forward all of what it is that they've been taught, but the consequences of what it is that they've been taught is going to be hurting a lot of their people. That's the truth. They're going to be getting shunned in areas. They're going to be a lot of people who are going to need whatever they're going to need, and they're not going to get it because of the consequences of what it is that they believe. And at some point in time, it's going to create a real problem within their own ranks. It's just a matter of what that looks like and how they handle it, and how long that takes, and how much damage they do between now and then. Which, if I predict anything, it'd be a whole lot, given how they're operating in 2026. But you can't keep carrying forward propaganda, promising certain things, practicing certain things, and then it yielding the worst results before certain people who would practice those things start looking around and saying, yo, these things, they're bad for us. They start listening to people like me and they say, you know what? No, we're not going to keep doing that. That doesn't work for us. No, I'm not going to do that because now I see what that brings to the table. And then the world they were in, the world they were raised in, was not the world they're in right now. This world has changed dramatically for them over the last 2 years. A lot of what it is that they've been doing, a lot of their methods, a lot of their psychological stuff is being studied by people that they never intended to even know about this stuff. And that creates an environment that they've never been in. And some of them, if not most of them, are not going to appreciate. And in being in spaces that you don't appreciate for long enough and having consequences that come your way that you never intended, seeing things that you practice not necessarily yield the results you were promised, that brings about a certain dislike, I guess is the word I would use, for what it is you're now involved in. Those promises were not kept. Those things they told us would do this, didn't do that. And now, suddenly, I don't know if what we've been doing ever worked for us in the first place. I don't think we should still be teaching this. And then the fight that comes with that for people who are going to push back is already described. So, yeah, that's what's coming for them, man. That's exactly what's coming for them. Because a lot of what it is they're trying to do has worked up to a point, but it only worked because a lot of people didn't know what they were doing. Now we know everything they own. We know all of their practices. We understand where the disconnect is between humanity versus their, beliefs. We know what it is that their symbols represent. It's not what they say it is. We know what the wall is. It's not what they say it is. They have to live in a world where that's the reality. We know they control these country, that country. We understand how they control them. All of that's being revealed now. We know what they're comfortable doing and how we think all of that is deplorable. All of this is really now around in spaces that it never was before while they were garnering all this power and all of this and that. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. It's like you playing a video game, you press a certain button and it doesn't move the right way. Or it has a certain delay on it when you press it. That's what they're dealing with. It's like that's not moving as fast as it's supposed to. They're not behaving the way they're supposed to. This is not coming together. And when you have that happen, then people start being unhappy. Then people start looking around saying, are we sure about this? Then the losses that come with that make it so that people say, I'm definitely not sure about this. That's my prediction for the next over 5-10 years for them, depending on how fast things happen. I think that's what's coming. They're going to end up fighting. They're going to end up fighting. It's going to be big wars in their state. We know it's coming. Big wars. They're already having infighting in their state. But it's going to get louder and louder, man. And look, that whole situation with the hostages, man, they said they got all the hostages back and they turned around and bombed Gaza this morning. If the bombing was all about the hostages, according to what it is that you're telling your people, then why are you still bombing now? These are questions that people over there just got to start asking. Why are we bombing now? We got all the hostages back. Why are we trying to continue to wage war? How do we know they won't take any more of our hostages? We were able to allow them to take our hostages in the first place. How is it that we're so certain they won't take more? How was it ever possible that they took them in the first place? These are questions that people, even underneath their indoctrination, are going to have to be answered. They're going to need these answers. Moms who lost people in that situation, fathers who lost people in that situation, they're going to want to know, how was this ever possible? And how are we certain it won't happen again? If we got control over America, if we got control over this country, that country, then why is it that them down the street can do this type of damage to us? And when they get to the crux of those answers, they're not going to like what they're going to find there. When they get those answers, they're not going to be pleased with what they find there. And so I think things are going to get a lot worse for them while they continue to try to control us and this and that and try to build that over there in the Middle East. What they're going to have is a big problem. You could build a big country, but you haven't answered certain key questions. And that's going to take people down certain rabbit holes that are going to make it so that people wake up. And as they wake up, they're going to really, really despise what it is that made them this way. They're going to despise it because it ain't nothing to do but to despise it. That's what's underneath the indoctrination of their mindsets and the different things that they've been following and their practices. It's led them to being the cancer of the world. And some people are going to be happy being cancers of the world. Other people are not going to want to be cancers of the world, friend. Some people ain't going to mind being shunned all over the world wherever they go. Some people are going to want to be somewhere else. And then there are certain things that you can't anticipate that is birthed from that environment. People who are born there, raised somewhere else, go back to find who they came from and discover all of this. That type of thing is like, yo, some people who were raised by people in certain situations and were displaced from those circumstances and also raised in a household where two different types of mentalities were taught, two drastically different mentalities were taught. And the rabbit hole it goes down when you try to figure out which works for you and which doesn't. That type of stuff, like they're in a world where people interlock and intermingle and share information back and forth in such a way to where you can't keep people locked into an indoctrination for too long. The information travels too fast. You can only brainwash people, but for so much. It's going to be people who trickle out from that. And as they trickle out, wisdom comes in, wake up comes in, they get pulled from the matrix, and then they start looking around and saying, how can I wake other people up? Because I know this is all meant for our worsening. It's not meant for our betterment. And I tell the powers that be, the most important thing that you were in control of is not allowing the internet to ever be turned on. If you ever wanted what it is you had control of to stay under your control, you should have never turned on the internet. You undid so much of what needed to be in place in order for things to continue the way it went. And a lot of the measures that you went by judging what you should and should not do and how to handle things was based on a world where the internet didn't exist, where people were not communicating instantaneously across thousands and thousands of miles, where people didn't get a chance to not only learn about one another, but obsess over other people's cultures relentlessly if they chose to. You know, anybody in the world can pick a subject and focus their entire mind on it. Depending on how insistent they are and relentless they are, they can focus their mind on that specific subject beyond obsessively. In a world where such thing is possible, it's hard to indoctrinate people's minds and warp and brainwash people's minds because they have access to something that can undo that wiring. They have access to things that can insert different ideas into their heads and allow for them to have dreams that don't have anything to do with what it is you taught them. And as you continue to try to control the outlets and the media and all this and different things that you try to control to keep people locked into that mentality, there's still going to be just enough people to get outside of it somehow. And that's what they're running into. Oh, we want to buy TikTok. Oh, we want to buy YouTube. Oh, we want to buy this. We want to buy Warner Brothers. You can buy all. It doesn't matter, bro, because you still got people like me out here talking on your platforms that you don't pay any attention to, speaking to the right people who can take our information and our ideas and spread them out to bigger platforms elsewhere in ways that you won't detect. It's not a perfect science. It's like trying to drink soup with a ladle. You understand what I'm saying? Stuff is still going to bleed through. And as it does, slowly but surely, it undoes what makes your situation very strong. The best thing you can do is adapt to that. The best thing you can do is establish goals within those limitations. But if you give yourself no room for any limitations whatsoever, then of course you're going to make massive mistakes. And this is why I circle back around to what we were saying in the first place. Accountability, self-awareness, a certain respect for limitations, a certain respect for truth and honesty is going to carry you forward in this world I just described a lot more so than being conniving and sneaky and controlling people with a certain mindset that doesn't align with reality, telling people they're better than somebody else, telling people that they come from outer space or whatever you're telling people. That cult stuff doesn't work as well in an environment that I just described, with the internet being possible, with people being able to exchange information and communicate and all that. And just fellowship as they do. It's very difficult to control a people at this point. That's very difficult. And if everything you had going on was about controlling people, then what you have going on could potentially be a risk. No matter how long it's worked, because of this new world-changing thing called the internet. And we've been doing this for 2,000 years, but the internet's only been up for about 35 years. And it's changed the world forever. And if you had the internet for the last 2,000 years, a lot of what it is that you had wouldn't be in place. You wouldn't have been able to build that. You wouldn't have been able to brainwash those people. You wouldn't have been able to convince people to do this or that. You gotta adapt. And if you're not able to adapt, then you're going to find yourself not in control of the world, even if you do control the world, if that makes any sense. You can have control over everything, but you're not going to have control over the essential, necessary stuff to assure that you hold the world in your hands. And I tell the people who do have control over the internet, so to speak, or those who do have mastered the internet, that the internet is too new at this point for you to have so much confidence that you control things just because you've mastered that. It's too new. You got to have some respect for limitations as well. You got to have some respect for the fact that things can change quickly, that the internet could be turned off, that the lights, so to speak, and the things that we use as tools can be turned off. Do you control that world? No, the old ways control that world better than the new ways will. So it's like you don't want to just count on certain things, because new things can come just like the internet came. Wisdom, man, and truth, and integrity, and a good reputation. I promise you, those things will carry you forward going forward. A lot better than indoctrination and supremacy and all these different things that people are aligning with. It doesn't work the same way anymore, man. It doesn't. It's a different world. You're going to lose people, and you're going to lose the wrong ones. And that's what they're going to find out, man. Powers that be have lost people. A lot of stuff that they allowed themselves to do to enjoy themselves as gods, that world is no longer the world they're in, but it will expose all of those practices. And that's what the Epstein files are showing us. These people have been doing a lot of stuff for a long time thinking they were gods, man. But they allowed the internet to be turned on, and it changed the world around them, and most importantly, it exposed everything they were doing. You thought you could blackmail people. Yeah, but hackers, friends. Hackers. That's the word I have for you, hackers. Whatever you think you had locked in the files that you had control over, somebody can get into that. And as they get into that, they can open it up, expose it. All these things are possible now. This is the world you're in. The old world it was all paper. You see what I'm saying? It was all paper. You can't hack paper. When it comes to these devices, yeah, these things can be hacked, man. You just got to move differently. And I'm telling you, truth is the best way forward. Not lies. Not changing definitions of words and different, we're going to make it this because we want it to be that. No, that doesn't. It's got to add up to the world around us in order for it to actually garner the support that ultimately you're going to be aiming for. You can't move in fallacies and expect people are not going to do homework. Expect there ain't going to be a few people who are telling the truth in areas they may find themselves listening to. You can't trust it. Powers that be, you cannot trust that anymore. A lot of y'all don't believe in God, man. That's the mistake. He does exist. He exists. He does. I don't know his ways too much. I would tell people the truth. I think I understand the enemy more than I understand God, if I'm being real with everybody. As of today, I'd say I feel like I understand the enemy a lot more than I understand the Lord. And that's because the enemy is very simple. The Lord is extremely complex. And there are certain contexts that I will never be able to obtain in order to ask the proper questions to the Lord. And as a limited person, as a person of whom is always limited, all of us are limited, that is always something that's going to confuse a lot of people. That they don't understand the fullness of the environment itself to know what questions to ask an entity such as God. We don't even know what to ask. Not really. Once he starts telling us certain things, then it's like, oh, so this question probably would have made more sense to ask than what it is I had on my mind. And that's the essence of what it is when you talk to something greater than yourself. But when you're dealing with the antagonist, he's not greater than you. Not at all. It's a fallen angel. You can ask him all the questions. He ain't going to answer none of them, honestly. But the point is, you're going to understand his ways a lot more than you're going to understand the Most High. And that's what I've come to understand as I'm watching those the enemy controls do what they do. They're rather simple. Very simple, actually, in a lot of cases. But the Lord, not so much. Not so much, man. And so that's pretty much what I want to share with you guys. I know a lot of this is going to sound a little strange, as a lot of my conversations often sound strange, but I think they age well. And at the end of the day, man, I'll tell you the truth. All of us have to deal with the flesh. All of us have to deal with our own little ways of doing things and this and that. But disciplining against what makes you your worst will ultimately yield you your best results. Don't allow yourself to get out of hand, man. Because you don't know where you're going to be 20 years from now, 30 years from now. And that's everybody. Some of us are going to want to run for president. Some of us are going to want to, have a congregation or be pastors or whatever. And some of the stuff that you did when you didn't care about any of those things could come back to haunt you when you are in those positions. Bdf 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.